Hello, everybody. It's Sarah and David again. We're just going to give it a moment while we wait for people to arrive. It shouldn't be too long. I hope everybody is well. I can see everyone joining the room right now.
You can't see outside, but it's a cloudy day in Australia. And streets are a little quieter than when we last spoke to you. There's some new distancing laws in Australia. So just like our students are studying from home, a lot of people are working from home. Both Sarah and I, we got the workday shift.
Yeah, we did indeed. So we're doing some rotation. So there's always people here if you need us. And yeah, that seems to be working pretty well. So look, I'll start formally now. So I met many of you last week. I know many of you already, but Sarah Lightfoot, the Chief Business Development Officer for UNSW and UNSW Global. So I oversee the international recruitment and BD. And I have David West, who is the General Manager for our academic programs here. So welcome to everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Since we last updated you, we have indeed had a lot of changes. We're really thrilled that you've come back this week. We have some, I think, very positive news for you. And I'm going to start by saying that the great news to start is that we are open for business, and it is business as unusual, as Susan, our great marketer, has said. You'll all know globally this is a very, very fluid situation. I'm very proud at the moment to be working for UNSW Global and the university, because we've been so agile in how we've been dealing with the situation, working with our partners, listening to them, working with our students to make sure that we're meeting their needs, which in many cases are changing on a daily basis. The response has been very good. Sometimes I think that you'd rather it be faster or different, but I can assure you there are big teams here working pretty much round the clock to make sure that we can have positive outcomes for everybody. We have found a number of solutions which we think will be amenable to you and your students, and we're really looking forward to sharing them today. It'll be a little bit different to last week. I'm going to be like an interviewer and interview David here because he's the expert in most things UNSW Global, and we've got a series of questions. I also want to point out, though, we took questions beforehand, just like last week. We've pulled them all together, but we do have a chat space. So there's a Q&A section. You can go into the Q&A section and you can ask whatever questions you like, and we'll endeavour to answer them over the next hour. So I think we'll start here. The big question that has been coming in, David, is are all UNSW Global Programs moving online?
Well, I can answer that quite simply. The answer is yes, though I'll give you a bit more detail. We've got over 2,000 students studying with us at present. And as of last Friday, we did a test class. And as of Monday this week, all of our courses are being delivered online. So that's all of our English pathway courses, all of our foundation studies courses, and also our diploma courses, our STEM diploma courses. So I can tell you a bit about that experience this week. Students are naturally in the first couple of days, some of them were having to download software that they might not have used before. Some did have a few technical difficulties, but based on the attendance, which has been great, and the feedback, the students are really enjoying the experience. And I think we're in a position now to start looking over the next 2 weeks at doing some more innovative things which we'll share with you today. But I might talk to you a bit about the categories of students we have. So first of all, there's the students with us, and I said there's over 2,000 of those. So they're now studying from the comfort of their own home. But we do realise there are students where either their government has asked them to return home, or their parents are very worried. They might be an under 18 student and their parents would like them to return home. We've now emailed all of your students, all of our students, and said that we will allow them to continue with these online courses from their home country, should they return home. Now, I do need to say though, we do advise them that if they can stay here, it's always a better option, because there are some issues that students could have when studying in a different country. Internet speeds could be different and might not be suited to our live teaching and video downloads. Also, we do use content on YouTube, which may not be available in some countries. In some countries, time zones could be an issue, but thankfully, I think across most of Asia, our time zone is very suited to those countries, and especially as our daylight savings changes in 2 weeks, it will be more aligned. And I guess also that the courses that we're currently offering, as soon as students can return to campus, and we are hoping that'll be in the next couple of months, we think that it would be nice to have students closer to the campus rather than have those challenges that might be associated with returning. Now, one announcement I can make, and there were lots of questions about this, how about for future intakes? Well, we had our English courses starting just on Monday, so those English courses, and we've got some other intakes. We are enrolled students in our standard program today, as well as our extended program, and next week we'll be enrolling students in our transition program. Now, while we do have students here enrolling in those programs, some exciting news, we will allow students who are already enrolled in those programs to commence online studies overseas. Now, as I said before, if they do encounter some of those challenges with studying in another country, then we'll give them until the 13th of April to make sure that that experience is satisfactory. We'll of course work with them to solve any of their technical issues, but if after those 2 weeks they find that they're not enjoying the experience because of speeds or time zone, then we would allow them to defer to a later program.
Thank you. Now, for those who've just joined us, we did have a lovely PowerPoint that Susan created for us, but I actually thought it was nicer if you could see David talking in action. So I'm going to read out the questions, and at the end we'll certainly share the PowerPoint around, and there's a couple of things on it that I'll share with you. I guess one thing I'll add to what David just said though is really in what we're trying to deliver at the moment, we're really trying to be as flexible as we can be, okay, to support the students. So we've had I think we're getting very positive response from our students for the adaptations that we're making to their teaching and learning situation, and we appreciate any feedback that we're getting. Every time we get feedback, we're meeting daily and talking about the feedback and how we can improve the experience. So don't stop sending in the feedback, it's really, really important to us. Next question, will the current timetable change?
The answer is generally yes. The timetable that we have in online mode is very different to the one that we would use in face-to-face mode. I did mention this in the previous webinar, but I'll mention it again. Between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock every morning, our students check in. There's a check-in process. And, we treat it a bit like arriving at an airport. They check in, we ask them a few questions about are they happy, are they healthy, and how can we improve their online learning experience. And then then they start classes at 10 a.m, whereas previously we would have started around 9 a.m. And also at the moment, they tend to be with larger groups. So there's a mix of lectures and tutorials. The tutorials are smaller, but we intend to move to a new timetable in 2 weeks in intimate mode. So that now that we've spent the first week understanding that the live classes are working well, all of the teachers have digitised the materials that are necessary for those initial weeks, we now will move to a more intimate mode. And this is a good opportunity for students studying offshore to experience what it would be like in a real classroom, but divided by many thousands of kilometres. So over, of course, the internet.
How will you do the laboratory classes in an online mode? What's the plan for that?
It depends on the course. So in the case of foundation studies, while we always do prefer doing live labs and students mixing chemicals or using our physics instruments, we'll be doing a mix of recorded labs and live demonstrations. So while the students might not necessarily get that hands-on experience, they will have a very high quality presentation of those labs. When we get an opportunity for those students to come on campus, we would have labs in intensive mode where they would get to experience some of them live. In diplomas, there are some courses where that won't be as simple. So in those cases, we would complete the course, but then ask that the students take part in those labs when they arrive on campus. So we do have a solution there, Sarah, and but our plan is to certainly make sure that should the students be able to arrive on campus before the end of the course, we would want them all to have a lab experience.
Fantastic. What about exams and assessments? This one was a really big one that came up. How would we do those?
Well, this was one of the hardest problems to solve, to be honest. If I think about those groups that are just finishing this week, the good news is we've done so much assessment with them. For the most part, we were able to create a predicted grade point average. And we emailed the students today and said that this is your predicted grade point average, which would enable you to enter UNSW in many cases. And for those students who would like to have an attempt at achieving a higher grade point average in foundation studies, and also perhaps a higher English grade, we'll be offering them online exams from next week. So there'll be 3 days of exams with security built in. So they'll be doing nearly 3 hour English test, for example. But most of the other tests will be between 1 and 2 hours. So we've emailed the students about that, and we're allowing them to decide whether they accept a moderated mark or partake in those exams. Now, for most other courses that are just starting now, we will do a combination of assessment, like an essay that they would submit, but also certainly formal exams, but run in it's called a proctored mode. So we would have some security attached to it to make sure that the results are high quality and a good representation of the student's ability. We also will have a close relationship with the student. So our teachers can always tell the progress of the student, and we'll also be making sure that there are video assessments so that we can speak to students if we need to review the way they've undertaken the assessment.
Fantastic. So we've had, so we talked about moving online and that we're open for business, and that means that not just our continuing students, but commencing students can move online. How long do you think we'll be offering the online study for?
Look, I think realistically, this is obviously a decision that is, for the most part, out of our hands. It's hard to describe for you at the moment what the Sydney streets are like. They're fairly quiet. So, I mean, if I look at Australia's infection rates, although they've gone up in recent days, they're still very low by world standards. So I think Australia is taking a very cautious approach, as is UNSW. So what we don't want, and we moved earlier than the workplaces did, we decided that we don't want students having to travel to the campus by public transport. We want them to stay in the comfort of their home where they're feeling secure. And we would hope that we will be back on campus within 1 to 2 months. But as I said, the decision is out of our hands, and we're guided at the moment by some of the government decision making. But I think with what I'm seeing in the last 2 to 3 days, I think we'll start noticing, well, I'm hoping we start noticing a positive impact of some of those social distancing measures. You can see we're sitting much further apart this time, observing a 2 metre distance rule.
Yeah, thank you. Now, a lot of interest in what, and you touched on this briefly, but the platforms that are being used, so how are we addressing those, and maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Okay, well, at the moment, if you, for most of the continuing students, so those who are with us in Australia, we are using Moodle. Now, that allows us to distribute messages each day, interview students, get feedback from students, and present them with all the various videos and materials they need. And within that are technologies like Collaborate, which is very much like Zoom or Teams or other video conferencing software where all of the teaching can be live using that technology. Now, we do have other courses that we are delivering to students who are overseas. So some of you would know we are delivering our Foundation English Entry course. And that course is using another platform called Open Learning. And we've found with our testing that that is a great product for delivering to countries where there is perhaps stronger security measures and there's some speed issues. Because, for example, in some parts of, or in China, that company has a partnership with Alibaba. So our testing with that suggests that that's going to be a great platform for us to start delivering online courses to students who are overseas, should this situation, COVID-19, continue longer than we would like.
Got a question here, and I'm going to jump in and share the screen again, just to kind of show you what we're referring to. But it's about whether orientation will be online. I will attempt to answer to start. Here we go. So yes, the answer is we certainly will be doing orientation online. Our student, and I'll get David to talk a little bit about it in a moment, but our students will be receiving this email. Now, I wanted to share it with you. We're certainly going to share it afterwards in the FAQ pack that come out, but just so that you get a sense of what they get. There's a whole lot of activities and things to engage them during their orientation process. We learned from our first orientation that we did online, you know, how to enhance and improve it. And as I said, throughout this whole process, every step of the way, every day, we're taking feedback from everybody and learning and moving. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of what we're asking people to do here, this is the email that all students will get. And I'll just get David to perhaps talk it through.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've streamlined the normal orientation process. And what we do is we have an online welcome, of course. So we certainly love welcoming our students to our online campus. But also we teach them how to use some of those tools that I mentioned earlier. So you can see up on the screen there, there's a description of how they would access Moodle. So we take them through step-by-step, an IT induction, so how to use our technology, but also how to access within those areas their special study area. So whether it be our each course that they have, and within that the live consultation teaching, we give them descriptions about that, and including videos, so not just static presentations. And we've prepared something for the students so that their questions are answered in that mode, but we also have emergency contacts and also we also have emergency email addresses that they can contact at any time should they require personal assistance.
Fantastic, thank you. We also, and again, you touched on it with your check-ins and the student support. We talked a little bit about this last week, but what about students in self-isolation? Can you talk through again a little bit about what we're doing for those students?
Yeah, so students in self-isolation, they are part of a special care program. So we would be contacting them on a daily basis, making sure that with that isolation, they can still access all the necessities of life, and that they are, of course, observing the expectations of that isolation period. So there's, we have quite a large dedicated team who support those students very well. Indeed, that's the same team who support all of our students who are now studying at a distance.
And I guess finally, in terms of the ones that we prepared, I'm starting to see some come through, so fantastic, thank you. We'll get to those in a moment. If online study isn't available, for particular cohorts, can they defer to a later intake? Are there any issues with that?
Yeah, I think as you said earlier, Sarah, we're being as flexible as we can. So while we're quite confident that the students who are studying with us now are enjoying their online studies, we realise that it's not going to work for everyone who might be studying overseas and having issues with that, or indeed students who would prefer not to study in an online mode. We will be flexible, and we would allow those students to defer to future intakes. And I mean, obviously, most of our intakes in terms of English start every 5 to 10 weeks. For foundation studies, it's about every 3 months, as it is for diplomas. So when they defer, it shouldn't take very long for the next course to start. But as I mentioned in a previous webinar, with the UNSW 3-term model, where students can choose to take an extra 6 units or an extra course every year, a deferral of 3 months is not going to, they're going to be able to catch up over the life of their course. So I think there's a big advantage there.
Fantastic. So we'll jump onto these questions. I want to give a couple of updates now. So last week we talked about the new entry requirements, and I am happy to say that the UNSW Global site has been updated with new entry requirements, as has the UNSW main site for the university entry requirements that we've talked about over the last week or so. One question that's come up over and over again is, will we take IELTS tests that are more than 2 years old? The answer is yes, we will take IELTS for foundation, diploma, undergraduate and postgraduate programs that are 3 years old. For our ELICOS programs, we're sticking with the 2 years. The questions that have come in that I can cover very quickly, the social activities, and again, David talked about the check-in and the academic parts, but one of the things that has really started to come together is some of the online activities for the students, so that they don't feel, so they're not struggling at home and not feeling lonely. So as well as the group work that we're doing online, we've had the students ask us, could you set up a book club for us, an online book club, an online cooking club where we can swap recipes, and a fitness segment. David is going to instruct everyone in online yoga.
Not me. I mean, hopefully the video is very kind to my form. I need to take part in the yoga. I'm not instructor material, but look, I think that things like online yoga, I mean, now that we've really nailed the teaching side, and that's going to, as I said earlier, in 2 weeks' time with a new timetable, we'll make that in a more intimate mode. I think we'll be able to focus more on other activities. I mean, it'd be nice, some of the ideas we're having at the moment is perhaps a choir, And Sarah, you've got a beautiful singing voice. You might sing us out at the end. But,
I might indeed.
And also, you know, I think as many social opportunities as we might be able to imagine. So, you know, maybe a talent quest, people can upload in their spare time some of their own particular talents. It could be singing, it could be, and they're playing a musical instrument. So, and perhaps some of the participants here are welcome to send us their own personal videos of how talented they are.
That would be actually really nice. I think that's a really fun thing to share at a time when people are, you know, really struggling. I did threaten to share some of my 17-year-old daughter's TikToks earlier. Not sure anyone really wants to see them, but who knows. Look, again, I'm going to get now to some sort of really formal. The questions are really coming in. Couple of the UNSW Global does accept domestic Australian citizens and PR with an international study background. So we're getting a number of inquiries about those. So the answer is yes, we can accept those. Wanted to say that students who meet requirements based on their semester 1 or year 12 report results, depending on their program of study, may be eligible for a conditional offer.
Yeah, that's right. So I think with the foundation studies programs, for example, we will make full offers based on year 11 or year 12 semester 1 results, depending on the course. As you know, transition and diploma, we would require semester 1, year 12, but for our longer foundation programs, we would accept semester 1, year 11. So we make full offers. We just need at some point after the student commences evidence that they have indeed completed year 11 qualification from somewhere, perhaps in their own home country.
Okay, over to your questions. I love the live. We've had them coming and we've got here, what is the contact point for students from overseas who have IT difficulties with online learning? Great question.
Yep, we have an inquiries email. So every student is part of their orientation and they've been emailed a pack on how to get help. There's an inquiries at unswglobal.unsw.edu.au, and that will be directed towards any of the support that they require. We also have an emergency phone number if their issue is more urgent, and they can call that if they need to, and then we can forward that on to one of our resident experts. Now, you know, every so often it won't get picked up immediately and they'll need a call back, but generally that system's working well.
We did have a question that just popped through that's more UNSW related, but I can answer that, how people can set up their ZID, which is their unique identifier for UNSW. Once again, students can go onto the UNSW website and there's a student section, and we can do some screen grabs for you when we send out these notes. And there's a very clear place where you set the ZID. Once they've done that, they can log into Moodle.
Yeah, and diploma and foundation study students, we take them through that process. They are using their ZID to access Wi-Fi if they're on campus, but our diploma students use their ZID to access their Moodle learning platform. So we have tailored orientation packs for whichever group needs to set up a ZID as well as part of our global programs.
Will the agents be notified for online courses if they're open to commencing students stuck overseas? The answer is absolutely yes. Here and now, I'm saying yes, we are opening our programs for commencing students, the details of which will unfold over the coming days. You will have emails about them that come out. We also have a number of different social groups that people can get information, but David and I will come back and do another one specifically about those. So as information unfolds, and it may be next week because things are so fluid at the moment, but the answer is yes. But
I can tell you, we have emailed the students who might be in that category. So students who are still enrolled and due to commence either the English courses this week, foundation next week or the week after. So all of those courses starting in March, those students have been contacted and they've been asked to provide feedback about whether they want to start online. They've been asked to provide feedback by midday tomorrow. And that's so that we can slot them into a class, they can do an online orientation, and then they can start from day one next week in class. So you should be aware that if you have any students in that category, they have been emailed. Also, students who might have deferred, we've just alerted them to this fact that this might be open, and we've given them that same offer. So we'll certainly be in contact should any students take up that offer. But we're hoping that students decide to take up that offer, and of course we're sharing with them some of the issues they might experience studying overseas. But look, I'm very hopeful that they'll take up that option. It'll keep them busy while they're possibly in isolation in their home country, but also gives them an opportunity to get here quickly and not lose any time, and hopefully enjoy an online experience. But as I said earlier, for those students in another country, we will give them 2 weeks to decide whether technically they're able to access all their online resources, and if not, we would still allow them to defer, as we would if they simply just prefer to defer and not do online.
And English courses online?
English courses are all being delivered live and online, and as I said, our Foundation English Entry course is also being delivered to students who are overseas. Now, that initially was going to be 5 weeks, but now that the travel bans have been extended, we are going to deliver the full feed course, the 10 weeks, online to those students, and of course have an exam at the end, and then, you know, on successful completion, they'll be eligible to enter a foundation program. And by that stage, they might be, if the bans were to continue, it could be an online course, but one would hope at the end of that 10-week course, they can hop on a plane and then have a full on-campus experience.
Good question here. Thank you. If a student fails an online exam, will they have a chance to resit?
I can answer that. Look, it's very much like a normal exam. Okay. If a student fails a normal exam, if they have compassionate and compelling circumstances, then we do consider that. But we are reassuring our students that we are being as flexible as we can with these exams, and we are considering their current disrupted period from moving from on-campus to a home environment, and we'll certainly take that into consideration. But I think a student is certainly going to have to demonstrate capability like they do in any exam, and if they are unable to, we'll obviously work with that student so that they can, we'll share with them all of their options, because we also do have repeat options, and some students will be in that category if they can't get a passing grade, but some students may choose to accept a grade point average that will get them into perhaps any other Australian university, if not UNSW.
Angie's literally read my mind, asking with the recent announcement with Cambridge exams being cancelled, will we give a full offer based on predicted results?
Yes, we will.
And the university as well will make an announcement on that as well. Rebecca Lawrence, our head of admissions, who many of you met a couple of weeks ago, is straight onto that. So we'll put out our instructions for that in the next couple of days. So another question on that: how would we assess it?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the exam. I mean, this is getting a bit technical, but for something for some examinations where we receive a formal forecast grades, we would expect that student to meet the entry requirements as they normally would. For some school-based assessments, it depends on the country and the qualification, we would expect them to be about 5% higher than the final requirement, but it really does depend. But yeah, we're very, I mean, these are our traditional ways we would assess some of those early sets of results. So we're well practiced in this, and I can urge you to keep sending us applications, particularly if your student is comfortable with an online option and particularly, I mean, we have groups that are finishing and they'll move straight into UNSW once we have on-campus open. But if the bands continue and our online continues, well, UNSW, it's a seamless transition. They are also offering online. So we're ready to move back on campus, but also we're doing, I think, what is quite a good job in a very short amount of time in our online space.
Fantastic. All right, we've almost run out of questions, I think. I'm going to do a last call. Are there any other questions for us? Okay. It would appear not. Look, thank you everybody for tuning in. We will send this recording out. We did have a technical hiccup with the last one, but we sent out the slides. We've got the slides, we'll have the recording, and we've got a set of Q&As as well, which we will send to you to assist you in counselling your students. Really, we are here to help you. And
yeah, and I'd urge you. I mean, you know, many of you have so much experience in international education, and you know, the welfare of your students are, you know, at the centre of your business, and you know, obviously you take a keen interest in your students as we do when they arrive here. We would very much welcome any of your suggestions about how we can make their experience better, and indeed how we can better support you to understand the various modes of learning that we offer, which are evolving and being announced very quickly. And I should say, we do have some plans for other online courses for students who are overseas, and we'll be making some announcements about those soon. We would expect some of those courses to commence in June and others in August. So there'll be courses that students would normally study on campus, but designed to be studied overseas. So certainly using platforms that we've experienced that are fast, user-friendly, and obviously for credit when the student arrives on campus.
Absolutely. One final question just popped in. So UEC for April will also go online if current situation remains. Yes, that's correct. Correct. Yeah. So thank you again. Really don't hesitate to contact us at any time. We are here for you. We appreciate your ongoing support. We appreciate how much you are, how patient you are as we're juggling and trying to get the answers to you as quickly as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.